Hey, what's up, guys? This is Mr. Walker, and I'm going to talk to you about Chapter 10 of Ender's Game. Not a whole lot of notes in this one because it's a lot of battle stuff, and it's interesting. It's fun to read, but as far as themes to look for and symbolism and things, there's not as much here. At least I don't think. I don't have as much stuff that interests me. But the thing that interests me the most, though, is Bean, of course. Bean is everyone's fan favorite character. Um, Bean is such a fan favorite character that he gets his own book series. Um, if you don't read any other Ender book, and there's a ton of them. I mean, if you're in my classes and you've seen my notes list, there's like 20 other books. Um, based over the course of many different series. But if you read no other book, you should read Ender's Shadow. Ender's Shadow is just the best. It takes place at the exact same time as Ender's Game, but this book is from the perspective of Bean instead of Ender. And so there's a moment in Ender's Shadow where we see Bean meet Ender for the first time, which is what we see here in chapter 10. And then we have that exact same scene, but we see it from Bean's perspective. And oh man, it's just so good to read as a parallel scene. And I just love it so much. But but focusing on this one and focusing on this book and this scene, um, of course, Ender is rude to Bean, is very, very um, he singles him out, talks about how he's the best and all this stuff. And Ender realizes that the reason why he's saying things like that is because that's how Colonel Graff treated him. Is that Graff singled him out on the launch up to Battle School, and that set him up for everything that he has dealt with. Where he's had a lot of adversity. There's a lot of people who hate him because he's the best and has been told that he's the best. And now Ender's doing the exact same thing to Bean. And why that's so interesting is that it's a metaphor for I think it's a metaphor for the cycle of abuse. Um, I mean, Ender's not being outright abusive or anything like that, but we oftentimes mimic the way we've been raised, you know, and maybe I don't know, maybe cycle of abuse is too far, but we do mimic how we have learned. And so I think about how the way I treat my son, or both my children, I guess. But Duncan's a little bit older, and so he's 7 right now at the age of me making this video. And we, when we talk about things, I try to explain them as best as I can, and I try to um, explain things the way my grandma would teach me. Is the way she would explain, and work through like complex feelings and things like that. My grandma, Mr. Rogers, things like that are teachers like that have helped inform me as a teacher whenever I'm talking to my son. And so Ender is similar in that he's learned from his own teachers, but it just so happens that the lessons that he's learned are, to single people out and to make them feel weird or different. And he does that so that Bean can be the best person that he can be. And what he doesn't realize is that Bean is already pretty fantastic. um, Again, this is a spoiler for Ender's Shadow, I guess, though, is that we know that Bean is actually way smarter than Ender. He's far more intelligent than Ender. But the problem with Bean is that he's not as charismatic, and people don't want to follow Bean the way they follow Ender. And but he is a genius. Um, One more thing that's worth noting in chapter 10 as well is that his friend Eli is no longer quite his friend any longer. And it's not like they had a moment where they blew up or there was distrust or there was anything like that. Um, it's just that their roles have changed. Ender is the leader of Dragon Army now and has got his own priorities and his own goals, and he's now competition for Ally. And so because they're competing against each other, their relationship has totally changed. And so um, it's a little heartbreaking. But the other thing is that it's just the way life is that right now you can think to yourself, oh, you know, the friends that I have right now are the ones I'm going to have for the rest of my life. That I'm going to be close to this friend forever and ever and ever and ever. And that might be true sometimes, but the vast majority of the time, that is not true. People change, your priorities change, your locations change, um, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just sort of the natural growth of life in general. Um, you know, that's the thing with Ally is that Ally is not. He's competition with Ender now. Ender doesn't really view him as an enemy. And if you notice, he still holds on to that very intimate moment that they have where Ally says salam to him. And so Ender Ender just views his friend in a different light. He knows that he can't completely and totally rely on him any longer, but he still holds on to cherished memory. Um, you know, it's heartbreaking, but it's a really it's an important scene to remember. So. All right, I think that's pretty much it for chapter 10. I might have missed some stuff, but those are the two things that I really pop out for me. So if there's anything else that you can think of, leave something in the comments or whatever people say and stuff like this. So, all right.